All right, John, first of all, before we get to all the football here on the Viking Update Show, I got to tell you, I spent some time in your hometown of Blaine this weekend.
All right.
For the 3M Championship, 3M Open, very well-run golf tournament, very bucolic setting. And I just wonder, because of my experiences there, because of your experiences there, I don't know if it's just responsible to hold a golf tournament in a place with such a wild nightlife, and I just wonder if all these guys are going to go through what Chuck Knobloch went through when he had to play in New York. The clubs are open till 5 a.m. People are doing cocaine in the bathroom. I just don't know. I maybe find a calmer place, someplace that isn't as wild, just for the sake of our athletes.
When I think about how far it is that I've come, in my career and in my life, one of the things that impresses me the most about myself is that I survived those streets, that temptation around every corner that Blaine offers. There's a pizza pub right down the street from the National Sports Center. There's
carbs are dangerous.
Brewery here, a brewery there, and yeah, it can get dicey in Blaine for sure.
Well, you know what they say about Blaine: if you can make it there,
you make it anywhere, baby.
Yes, that's right. And I also appreciate your overwhelming sense of modesty as you described your meteoric rise through the media ranks. All right, let's get some Vikings here. This is the Viking Update Show. He is John Krasinski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune. We have two other Viking shows at TalkNorth.com. Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL Insider with the former Vikings general manager, and Alec Lewis, John's colleague at The Athletic. His show does a great job for us as well. We have a lot of Viking content because people care so much. We're going to get into how much people care and how dangerous that could be later in the show. Let's get to the news. Last week we were saying, man, I don't know. How do you value Josh Metellus? How do you get that deal done? And they just get it done, which I think big picture here is a reminder that, remember how worried people were about the Justin Jefferson negotiations? And I kept telling people, they'll just get it done. I don't know when it's going to get done. They're going to get it done. And Kevin O'Connell negotiations, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah negotiations. When was the last time the Vikings didn't keep someone that they really wanted?
It's a great question. I've been trying to think about that as well, because whenever they do set their sights on someone, coaching, executive, player, and they want to keep them around, they do. And let's also be honest that the NFL economic structure is such that it certainly gives the team that already holds the player an enormous advantage in terms of keeping them if you do want to. But you still do have to get creative with the finances sometimes to make sure you keep all of the, because it's not even, Jim, a matter of just keeping everyone, especially when it comes to players, but keeping them happy, I think is a different thing. Like there's times where you can really kind of lean on someone and use all of the protections that you have in the collective bargaining agreement to your advantage and squeeze. And then there are times where you want to make sure that whoever you're dealing with not only has a deal, but is happy to come to work. And I think that, that was probably maybe even a little bit more of a challenge with Metellus. You knew that Jefferson was going to get what he was going to get. Like that's a no-brainer. You just make that happen. But Josh Metellus is a little bit more of a complicated negotiation, valuation, all of those things. And so to get it to a point where not only you are keeping a very valuable piece, but that piece also is very happy with how things played out and unfolded, I think is a big deal for the Vikings. He is an important voice. And if he can be in the locker room telling you, hey, you do what you're supposed to, and they'll take care of you, that can help the whole team chemistry out quite a bit as it goes forward.
No doubt about it. So congratulations to them for getting it done. I do think he's a really important player. I'm glad they signed him. I just didn't know if they would sign him, but they get it done. Not only get it done before anything become too rancorous, or he would have felt the obligation to hold in or whatever he would have to do to get the money. So great deal for culture, great deal for the actual football team, another building block for this season. Sometimes I feel guilty because the traditional job of the newspaper sports columnist is to be the critic's voice. And back when I first got the job, it was very easy to be the critic's voice in this town. Now I feel like I just praise the Vikings all the time, but I think they've earned it. This is the kind of move that earns them praise because they take care of their business so well. Hey, the Viking Update Show is presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and On X Hunt. We'll tell you more about them in a little bit. We're also coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio.
That first sip of coffee on a summer morning. Sunshine. Caffeine. What's better? How about water so good it makes your coffee jealous? Water from Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Enjoy sparkling dishes, cloud-soft laundry, and worry-free water from every faucet. Likely for less than your daily iced coffee. Enjoy up to 25% off a new Connecticut system and schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Hi, everyone. This is Dawn Mitchell with a reminder. Please tune in to our podcast every week, Dawn of Sports. You can find it on Talk North Podcast Network.
All right, so now that Metellus is in line, we're gonna break down the defense the way we broke down the offense last week. Where do we think they've improved, gotten worse, or stayed the same position by position? But let's get to a little more. Current events. One thing I keep saying when I do my morning radio hits or my radio hits around the state is, I get just peppered with questions. How they looking? How they looking? How they looking today? How they look today? But how about today? And I'm like, I love the enthusiasm. I understand the enthusiasm. Football is the most popular sport in North America. It is the dominant sport in North America. It is fascinating. The Vikings are the most popular entity in this state. And of course, people are going to know what's going on. But everything needs to be couched in terms of it's practice. It's just practice. And nothing really matters. I mean, other than injuries, and Justin Jefferson has a hamstring injury we'll have to monitor here going forward. I mean, if McCarthy has a bad practice, not only does that not mean anything, it might be a good teaching moment for O'Connell. So we have to be really careful about how we couch anything we say about practice. And I think you have an example of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there was, we'll get, I think, into more of just how reporters offer context on it, how fans absorb that information. But I think separately from that almost is what happened this last week where there was a video that was put out on social media that said, JJ McCarthy continues to struggle in practice today. Here's his 5th interception of the day. And it was a video of an interception that JJ McCarthy threw in a practice. The problem was that the practice was from last training camp and not this one. And McCarthy did not throw 5 interceptions in that practice, but that video was viewed at that time by like 3.7 million people, or there's 3.7 million views of it. And so when you think about AI, when you think about the presentation of these of videos and just like nefarious acts and clickbait and all that stuff, it is more prevalent than ever. And so it requires more scrutiny and more intelligence on the part of the fan who is absorbing this information, quote unquote, and to find it from the right sources. And now it'll sound like I'm standing on a soapbox and trying to give you all a lecture, and I'm just trying to actually save you what could be angst, nervousness, like all of these things, because like this stuff happens, like, and it is absolutely completely 100% fake. And so it's about identifying who you trust as sources of information for the teams that you follow. And B, then it is incumbent upon those people to sort of present everything with the idea that we are looking to try to glean some sort of information and some sort of feel for what's going on when you watch practice. I mean, you can't just ignore everything, but what players will tell you time and time again is that, and coaches will tell you, is that practice is the place for mistakes. I mean, I think that there's this sort of mythic kind of quality that every fan wants from JJ McCarthy right now. He never threw an incompletion in this in this session, and oh, he hasn't thrown an interception, and man, he's mastered it all. When actually, what you will hear is that they want him to take chances, to experiment in practice, and if it means an interception, if it means a bad throw or whatever, like that's part of the learning process, and that's what it's going to be. So, there's just kind of multiple facets of this conversation that I do think, we have to give the fans and their listeners their vegetables right now, and just please listen to us on this, and it will help your ability to discern what is truthful and what isn't, what you have to be worried about and what you don't. And just be careful out there, because there are plenty of people that are just waiting to get a rise out of you by putting something out there that is just not even tethered to reality, but gets done what they want to get done. And that's just kind of rage bait people.
Yep. I covered the Cowboys for a year as a beat writer, the Vikings for 3 years during one stint, and the Vikings as a beat writer late in the 90s. And I was kind of our NFL writer for a while. I watched a lot of football practices. And as a beat writer, you do hunger for developments and news, and you're looking for stuff. But you get good at it. People who've done it for a while, who've done it, you understand, okay, if the quarterback threw an interception because he was trying something out, that is absolutely no big deal. If the quarterback threw an interception because he doesn't have any arm strength, that's a problem. So I still remember being at training camp practice in 2009, and the Vikings were going back and forth internally. Do we really give Favre $25 million? Can't we get, we have a good team. Do we really want to bring him late in camp and trust him? And then I watched the practice, and Ziggy was standing 10 feet from me, and Tavares, it was a windy day. Tavares Jackson and Sage Rosenfels, who both had their moments as starting quarterbacks in the NFL, both had talent. They couldn't throw passes that could get to the receivers through the wind. And it was just a reminder, everybody who's standing there, the arm strength just isn't there. The arm strength, and they don't have enough of the kind of Joe Montana brilliance and savvy to make up for lack of pure arm strength. And it was like, I'm standing there and I'm looking at everybody, and probably standing next to Judd or somebody, and we're all like, they're going to sign Favre tomorrow. And they signed Favre the next day. There are things you can pick up on, but it wasn't because they threw an interception. It was because they didn't have the physical skills to be exceptional at that position. And when I go watch football practice, I say, okay, who's getting reps? Because that can be very revealing. Who's getting reps at places where there's a competition, and what are the physical skills of the key players? That's about as far as I would go when you're analyzing a football practice.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat in terms of, like, I do look for physical traits because I know that there are a million things that I'm not sure what they are working on in this particular session, what is being emphasized. And so I can't, tell myself that, yeah, I know that this player screwed this up in this moment. But I think back to, I remember two guys, the first training camp practice for Adrian Peterson and the first training camp practice for Percy Harvin. And you just, like, the way that they moved was like, that guy is different than everyone else out here. And so those are the things that I kind of try to glean, is like, oh my gosh, this guy is overwhelming from a physical standpoint. And if that stands out, that's where I get kind of excited, and I get my dauber gets up a little bit, because, like, if a receiver in a corner, one's winning the one-on-one battle, in that session, if there's a corner that gets really physical with people, like, that's the kind of stuff that I look for. But if you're trying to glean who is in the right spot at the right time, who is understanding the offense or the defense best and stuff like that, it's really hard to do that, like, from watching from the sideline and not just being in the meetings and in the huddles and understanding, okay, here's what we're looking for. So that's the way that I've tried to do it, and just do it from a more level-headed perspective that way. And then the other thing about this, Jim, is that's really advantageous for us as reporters who are there and have access, is when McCarthy throws an interception or two, there's generally someone that you can check with. Hey, what are you seeing here? Is that, was that on McCarthy? Was that not? And how is he coming along? And certainly the public sentiment statements that O'Connell and Wes Phillips and everyone are generally probably going to skew more positively, even if things aren't going well. But it's the reporter's job to be able to talk to people behind the scenes and kind of get a little bit closer to the truth with all of these things and shape that picture over the course of days and weeks of a training camp, and not just on one day and one incompletion or completion and all of those things.
Yes. All right. Let us get to the defense here. I do want to tell you about Giggly THC beverages. I have these. I would say I have Giggly 3 or 4 times a week. Nights where I want to have something that tastes like a cocktail that's not going to tire me out. It's going to let me sleep well. I'm going to wake up feeling good and energetic. And that's my favorite thing. I love the taste, but even more important than I guess I wouldn't drink it if it wasn't for the taste. But the most rewarding thing about drinking something that tastes that good is I know I'm going to feel really good the next day. I wake up the next day, I'm ready to roll. Sometimes you have a cocktail or two, you don't feel that way the next day. So the stuff tastes great. It's got healthy ingredients, fruit juice, ashwagandha, ginseng. It's affordable. It's got good volume. Another thing about cocktails is you're usually drinking something about 3 or 4 ounces. It doesn't last very long. You pour one of these and add ice, and it can last you a good long time. I never drink more than one a night, so it also lasts a long time. I would get the variety pack of the cocktails. I would try the seltzers. I would try the teas, which are my wife's favorites. Use the promo code GigglyNorth to get up to 50% off your first order. After that, check out Giggly on Giggly or Giggly.com on social media. You'll find more promo codes. Highly recommend it. Again, I drink it all the time. I don't have to, and I drink it all the time. GIGLI.com, promo code GigglyNorth. Also want to tell you about Onyx Fish. The weather is warming up, and that means it's time to put your augers away, and it's time to grab the boat. Let Onyx Fish help you find the next best bite. The Fish app offers the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your success. Use the Fish app to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential. Onyx Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onyxmaps.com/fish to get more information about the app that is changing the game. All right, last week we broke down the offense, where we think they've gotten better or worse. Obviously, the improvement of the offensive line was probably the most important development. Let's get to the defense this week. And let's start with the defensive line, where coaches will tell you it all starts. They keep Harrison Phillips, a good player and somebody who fits in very well here. They add Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. Better, worse, same?
I think it's better, Jim. I want to see both of them. I know they're a little bit more veteran players, but they both have track records of not only being impact players, but being tough and physical dudes. And so when you're talking about what Brian Flores wants out of this defense, he wants attitude. He wants kind of a bully ball mentality. And not only, players who can kind of use subterfuge and confusion and all those things to throw an offense off, but I think he also wants players that can just beat you up. And I think that Allen and Hargrave, at their best, at their healthiest, are guys who can do that. We talked a lot about last week about the changes to the offensive line and how they wanted to get, I think, a little nastier and a little more physical up front. And I think that same tack was taken with the defensive line. And so I'm big on the additions there, really kind of changing the overall kind of feel of the defense in a way because of the way they've been through the wars, but also that they are just tough dudes that will come at you for 60 minutes.
Yeah, I think that the ability to be more physical along each line could really, and it's one of the reasons I'm higher on this team than I think most national observers, is I think it was already a good team. I think McCarthy's going to be good. I think the dramatic improvement of the offensive line and the expected improvement of the defensive line, those are going to win games in ways that you might not even really notice, but they matter. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think that especially I like the way that Allen and Hargrave, I think, are going to fit in terms of they have been around the block. So I think they understand defensive concepts incredibly well. And now they are with this kind of mad scientist defensive coordinator who wants to move people around, who wants to put all sorts of different looks out there to confuse the quarterback. And these guys have been in the league long enough that I think that they're going to be able to really take to what Brian Flores wants to do. And so oftentimes, like if you're going to try to, we saw it with Dallas Turner last year in his limited snaps, and I'm sure we'll get to him a little bit later in this discussion, but when you bring real young guys in to kind of have feature roles on defensive line, wherever you could put them, their ability to adapt on the fly, to process information, to understand differing roles, and to play the kind of games with an offense that Brian Flores likes to play. Sometimes it's really hard to expedite that learning curve and get them into that kind of a situation. But these guys really know, like they can. I think that Brian Flores is not going to hesitate to do all sorts of different things, because these guys are smart enough and have been in the league long enough that they can adapt to whatever is being asked of them. And so I just think it really positions them well to right up front to kind of build the defense from the front to the back, and also really generate even more heat on the quarterback this year, so that the defensive backfield, which is kind of one of the spots where you wonder about just a little bit with this defense, doesn't have as much pressure on it to cover for as long as as you might worry otherwise.
Also, you talk to quarterbacks, offensive line coaches, offensive linemen, and they say, listen, the edge rushers are really important. You have to have edge rushers, and edge rushers are going to make, they're great athletes, and they're capable of making those one or two big plays a game that can change a game, whether it's strip sack, hitting a quarterback's arm that's caused an interception, disrupting plays, forcing the quarterback to move up the pocket, eat time. But there's nothing more important or more devastating to an offense than an interior pass rush. And it doesn't always have to even get to the quarterback, but if you can push the pocket back, make the quarterback uncomfortable, make him take a deeper drop than he wants to, that can mess up an offense as much as anything.
Yeah, these guys are monsters up front, man. I mean, Phillips is a little bit more, not quite as physically imposing or dominant of a guy, but he still has a lot of muscle and can do some things. But Allen and Hargrave historically have been guys who can just physically collapse a pocket. And, there are speed rushers, there are power guys. And I just think both of these guys, especially when you put, Grenard and Van Ginkel or Turner, whoever outside of them, in the different kind of formations that Brian Flores is going to use, man, I mean, there's just some explosiveness and just overall strength that is going to be prevalent along this line that I really think is going to allow them to control the line of scrimmage in a way that they haven't in a while. And even I didn't think that was a huge weakness of their team last year, but I just think that it got much better with the addition of these dudes.
No doubt. All right, let's get to the linebackers. We're going to lump the edge rushers and the actual linebackers together just for the sake of the conversation. We'll get to the secondary. I think next week we'll at least touch on special teams. But first, I'm going to tell you, I'm going out to Leo Lewis's charity golf tournament today, supporting the Leo Lewis Foundation. I've known Leo since I came here to cover the Vikings in 1990, and I'm going to wear a Peter Millar shirt that I bought at Twill. They're having their summer sale right now, 40% off a lot of their stuff that they're trying to move out because they bring so much new stuff in every year. Highly recommend going out and getting it. Pretty much everything I wear when I go out in public, if I want to look like anything other than a slob, I wear Twill stuff. I spend my own money. I don't get discounts. I don't ask for discounts. I'm happy to pay because it's quality stuff. My wife and I have lived in a lot of smaller apartments around the Twin Cities, and we haven't had a massive amount of closet space. And I do find myself looking in my closet and going, I haven't worn that shirt in 5 years, and throwing it away. I never have thrown away anything I bought at Twill. It might last you the rest of your life. So it might be a little more expensive than you buy at a discount store. It will last you, and it will look good, and it will hold up, and I can throw it in the washing machine. It's going to come out looking brand new. So I highly recommend going to Twill in the Edina Galleria. Say hello to Scott Dayton and their staff. They're big fans of the podcast, great supporters of the podcast network. They're great people, and you'll have a great time. Go in and tell them we sent you. Remember, Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com. And here's Talk North star Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
Also, want to tell you about Natrium. The promo code is TalkNorth15. We'll get you 15% off all Natrium products. Go to the Mothership store in St. Louis Park. I recommend going there, talking to the sales associates. After that, you can order at natrium.com, Natreum.com. Pretty much everything under the sun. Gut health, joint health, muscle soreness, fun, good taste, all kinds of different ingredients, all kinds of different dosages. You're going to find something that works well for your life. Natrium.com, promo code TalkNorth15 for 15% off, and thanks to Natrium for their sponsorship. All right, let's get to the edge rusher / linebacker position. Better, worse, same?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we probably, it's very similar to what they had. So with Grenard, with Pace, Cashman's back, and hopefully he stays healthy because, man, he was unbelievable for them last year when he was out there. And Van Ginkel was Defensive Player of the Year candidate early on in the season. So it's pretty much the same group. I think I could say, though, if you want to be optimistic, and I don't think it's reaching to be optimistic, I think they can be a little bit better with Dallas Turner in year 2. There's been a lot of talk early about just how explosive that he looks out there in camp. But then I do think, kind of getting back to what we talked about with the defensive line a little bit, I do think that there might have been part of him that was overwhelmed last season with how technical Brian Flores gets, with how exacting he is and how creative and exotic that he gets with his looks. I think that having a year under his belt and just being able to better understand what's going on, I think they can get more out of Dallas Turner in year 2, certainly than they did in year 1. So I do think it can be a little bit better, but it's already been pretty darn good when you look at those 4 guys and what they all can bring, and having them all back together. I think it's going to be really advantageous for this defense just to have that kind of continuity. It should only breathe more experimentation into Brian Flores' approach, because he can do even more with them with all that comfort level of everyone being together.
Yep, I agree completely. And I think Turner will be much better. If he's much better, this group will be better also. Van Ginkel, Grenard, Cashman are all first time, they're all newcomers to the system. They've got to be a little more, well tutored. They're very smart veterans. They adapted right away, but there's got to be some advantage to being in the second year in this system, and more comfort with Flores calling different things out. If Cashman stays healthy I always think it's unreasonable to ask any NFL player to stay healthy for 17 games.
Yes.
But Cashman, the difference in this defense when he was on the field and off the field was stunning. Mm-hmm. I thought he was a good signing. I thought he was a good player. He was way better than I thought he was. He was way more impact. He just didn't fill a role. He was an impact player in a way that I did not fully expect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's exceeded my expectations a lot. I think we talked about it last year a little bit, where, they sign him and, he's the former Minnesota kid and all that. And it's like, oh, this is a fun story that Minnesota kid comes home and, and gets to play for the Vikings and all this stuff. But I do think, like, I know personally, I sort of did not account for just how great of a player that he is. I had not paid as much attention. I knew he did some good things in Houston, but you're just not watching it all the time. And so, to kind of pick up on the nuances that a linebacker brings to a team that's in the AFC that's never on your TV, it's really hard. And so once he got here and you're watching him snap in and snap out, and, it was like week 1, week 2, week 3. It's like, God dang, this guy is everywhere. Like, and against the pass, against the run, like the whole gambit of things that Brian Flores needed from him, it was really impressive. And so, yeah, if he can stay healthy, I also like that they brought Eric Wilson back. I think he's a nice backup so that if Pace or Cashman does get hurt, you can slot him in there for a week or two and at least not have an enormous drop off. So they have a little bit of depth behind them. But I mean, Cashman, I really think in some ways is the key to this whole operation or this whole position group, because we know Grenard and Van Ginkel are really, really good. We know Dallas Turner has an unbelievably high potential. Evan Pace is a playmaker, but Cashman is just it seems like the glue that holds everything together on that second level of the defense. And so you got to hope that he does stay healthy, that he's able to stay out there as long as possible. And that maybe, with Wilson back, with a couple of other guys they have there, maybe you mix in a few things to try and keep him healthy and limit his exposure to injury a little bit during the regular season. So once the playoffs come, you're ready to go.
Yes. All right, let's get to the secondary, maybe the position of greatest intrigue. Give Harrison Smith back. They expect him to still be a very good player. It's, you just never know. Theo Jackson's going to be the other starter. They have, I think Isaiah Rodgers is one of the big swing players on this roster. Okudah could be a good player. There's talent back there, but there are a lot of question marks. So let's ask the question: better, same, or worse?
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I'm going to say worse, Jim, but that is mostly because of all the question marks. I think it has the potential to eventually be better, but I'm a little bit nervous after, Gilmore's gone and I know that he wasn't as great, but last year as he was the year before, but he was just a veteran that you could really rely on. And then Cam Bynum was a real big playmaker for them on the back end, and he is gone. And so they have lost real guys that are going to take some doing to replace. And in their place, Rodgers, I like a lot because I like a lot mostly because I know Brian Flores likes him a lot. And when Flores likes a player, you know that he's going to be able to use him to his biggest advantage on defense. But Blackman, I like, but he's coming off of a big time injury. Harrison Smith, I love, but he's a year older. And, this is where I do think the Metellus signing is going to be big for them, because they're going to put him all over the place on the defense, and they're going to have him at safety sometimes, and sometimes it'll be at linebacker, and sometimes he'll be, all over, but they're going to need his sort of versatility to strengthen that back end. I know that they really like what they've seen from Jeff Okudah early on in camp and in the off-season stuff. But again, you wonder about health, and you wonder about a lot of things with him. So they're just, Theo Jackson, is he really ready to step into a starting role? There's just a lot of questions that you can put out there to this group that are not unfair, that are not sort of knee-jerk, that are real things that they are going to have to answer. And I think they are capable of doing it, but it's the group so far of all of the groups, offense or defense, this is the one I feel like that has the most questions that could go wrong for this team. And so that's why I say right now, I think they're a little bit worse than they were last year. And we'll just see if that changes over the course of the season.
I have to agree. They have a lot to prove. Maybe they'll prove it, but they have a lot to prove. I also think we can say that they're not right now. They look worse in the secondary. My guess with their aggressiveness, their ability to recruit players, my guess is there will be another move in the offing down the road, whether it's trade, free agent signing, or just using waivers wisely to get a veteran who can come in and help a little bit. This could all work out. Mekhi Blackman might end up being the key. Okudah might being better than we expect. Theo Jackson might be great. Harrison Smith might have one more great season in it. There are a lot of ways this could work out, but it's less certain than all. To me, it's the position where they need to have things go right to be right. Whereas I think the other positions, if everybody just plays the way they play, they're fine.
Yeah, and I one thing I will give this group is I do think it's a more athletic group than last
Cam
year.
wasn't a great athlete. He just had a good feel for the game.
Yes, good nose for the ball, all that. Gilmore had kind of slid down. So if Blackman gets back to where he was pre-injury, it is a group that can run with you, that can be physical, and that can kind of just cover the field. That they can do that. We'll see where Harrison is at, kind of just with everything that he has and what his body is capable of going into this season. But in general, it's a group that should have the physical traits to stand up. But it is like, now it's like, okay, then are you capable of all of the mental side of things that you need to have with you in a Brian Flores defense? And that's just, there's just a lot of things that they need to show that they haven't as a collective yet. And there's just nothing that can satisfy that until you get into game action and are actually really doing it, quarter in and quarter out.
Going forward, we will continue to tell you what's happening at practice. We just won't overreact to it, or we won't lie about it. But hey, we appreciate you listening to the show. We appreciate you listening to the network. Please check out the John Krasinski Show. John does great work on our Timberwolves/NBA show here at TalkNorth.com. We have a great lineup. We have Russo, we have Don Mitchell, Randy Shaver, Mark Rosen, Roy Smalley, Lavelle Neal. We have so many good people I always forget. We have outdoor content. We have Alec Lewis, Jeff Diamond. Just check out all the shows. You can go to TalkNorth.com, find the shows you like. When you find a show you like, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. We're starting to put more of our shows on YouTube. Check those out as well. Tell us how we're doing. We do appreciate it. Check out John's show this week, and we'll be back with the Viking Update show next week.